1995 the museum opened. 9 years later. 2003 they started their last restoration. The restoration finished in 2013.
Nice. Oh my god.
It's too bad, right? Somebody was once very proud of that boat. I think that's been a couple of weeks.
Okay, 1, 2. 1, 2. Oh.
Hey, Canal saan?
Up until what time in the evening they go around? The boats?
My last tour today is 8:15.
Quarter past. But
So we'll stop
is
at
it dark?
9:30.
It's not dark by then.
Dan is not dark yet. No. No, it gets dark now. Especially favoured with art galleries and jewelries. And I think if you look around, you can understand why. It's just beautiful over here. My opinion, this is the best looking little canal in the city.
En Athene, ook het Prinsen gaat de reguliers kruisen.
Really, komt de spiegel uit. Dat brengt ze nog.
We love Ubi is what I mean. With a bike and then plan.
In the center, no? Where is the center? Wait, I'm sorry.
This will be the center.
See, where are you? Let's see.
Marinito, Lido, Amerika, de Bol.
In the center of the city.
And then we get from the most beautiful little canal to the most famous, the longest canal in the former city centre. The Prinsengracht, the Prince Canal.
So here.
We were to stay somewhere.
It's the border of the former city centre. Today the border is the canal where we took off. It's about 4 kilometers long, and back in the days this was the longest canal. Today it's mainly the party canal. Do you know we have King's Day?
Yes.
King's Day is the birthday of our king. It's April the 27th. King's Day is celebrated everywhere in the Netherlands, but in Amsterdam also on the canals, and then mainly on this canal. If you get here on King's Day in the afternoon, you'll see a canal that's so freakingly filled with boats you can literally walk from one side to the other without getting wet. And trust me, if you manage to get wet, it'll be beer or wine. There won't be water. Other nice party over here is the Canal Pride. The former gay pride attracts about 1 million extra tourists to the city. Those 1 million people are on the banks of this canal. The first weekend in August. Brilliant party. If you look at the buildings over here, you'll see the typical Amsterdam canal buildings quite a lot. Typical building is 3 windows wide.
Amsterdam, kijk, burgemeester.
Today they still use these hooks, and they're still strong. Back in those days it was, well basically if you had no money at all, you would live on a boat. There's nothing to be proud of, just show your poverty. That changed quite dramatically. First change came after World War II. After the war, people came from the countryside to the city for work. They needed a place to stay. Well, there were not enough range over there. They calculated and they said we have 2,500 possible spots for a houseboat. So here's 2,500 permits. Pick one and stay, or don't and leave. And in no time we had 2,500 legal houseboats in the city. They didn't sell the spots to make a lot of money. The only thing they wanted was to give each and every spot its own address. And with an address you can do a couple of things. You can connect the boats to everything you want in a normal house. Electricity, water, gas, and of course the most important thing, sewer. And what you can also do is tax the people living on board, right? Yeah, we're not completely stupid. In between these two bridges, that one and the next one, I love the diversity in boats. From the modern, you have at the start, to the hyper-modern, the concrete bowl with the bungalow on top, and my personal favourites, the real boats. If you look at these real boats and you think they look old, you're right. But that's because they are old. They're supposed to have been working for 100 years and then we're laid to rest over here. But almost all are very, very well maintained. And some really do have stunning interiors. Absolute beauties. Handmade. IKEA doesn't make anything with the round back. Yeah, beautiful, right? That little hyper-modern boat with the round roof, the rusty one, that boat is about 40 square meters. If you're in feet, it's about 400 square feet. That's tiny, right, for a house? It's not too big. Asking price 6 years ago, 695,000 euros. I started laughing a little bit.
But now?
When I stopped laughing, a few hours later, the boat was sold. A little bit over 900,000 euros. Including all costs, that's about 1 million. 40 square meters, 1 million, that's 25,000 euros a square. Did you notice the smell on these canals? There is none.
Yeah.
There's no smell.
Yeah, I didn't smell.
If I tell you that the water, this water is actually really, really clean, what do you say? Shut up and take a different pill? The water is clean. Really clean. I'll show you. I have a cup over here. Scoop up some of the canal water. And that's what canal water looks like. It's quite clear. It's a bit of colour. It comes from the leaves on the trees. In the fall and the winter the leaves fall off. They blow in the canal. They give the canal a bit of colour. In February, March, the water is almost orange. A lot darker than it is now. By flushing the canals, that's what we do to clean them. It fades away, the colour, and in about a month from now it will be completely colourless. And no, I'm not going to drink it. Trust me, I'm not that stupid. But there's absolutely no smell on this water. This water smells exactly the same as tap water. And I wouldn't recommend drinking, right? That's one step too far. But swimming in it is perfectly possible. And in September we have a city swim again. Every September there's a city swim. A couple of thousand people will swim all the way from the Emperor's Canal to the Maritime Museum. 2008, the first edition. That Queen competed. So what more proof do you need that the water is really clean? And then right now we're on the Amstel. And the Amstel is a river. It's a tamed river, there's no current anymore, but it is the only piece of natural water we'll see today. All of the canals are man-made. And to the back, You see the locks. The locks that kept us safe and dry for a couple of hundred years. They're still functional. Not really in use anymore, but still functional. Further in the back, you see a building with. Wife says it works, so hey. You've got to count for something. It's a beautiful bridge, right?
Very.
You know when it's especially beautiful? When it gets dark, it's lit with 1,200 LED lights. That's an astonishing sight. And today, almost all work. A couple have been rammed out in the last few months, but on May 5th we have our Liberation Day. That's the day that we celebrate the end of World War II. On that day we have a concert in between the locks and the bridge. And in between the locks and the bridge is a huge pontoon, and on the pontoon is the whole royal family. It was built as a home for the widows of the sailors. Back in those days, sailing was a dangerous job. About half the men that left Amsterdam came back alive. So there were a few widows. This was their home. 150 years later, it became an elderly people's home. From that day on, men were allowed to. In 2007, they closed it. In 2009, it opened again as Hermitage Amsterdam. Back in those days, it was the Sister Museum of Hermitage St. Petersburg in Russia. But due to the Russian-Ukrainian war, they closed the museum in February 2022. In August, they opened it again after cutting all the lines with St. Petersburg. And today, it's called the Heart of Amsterdam. Heart stands for historic art. Today, it shows you the history of Amsterdam, the history of the city. When I saw the building for the first time, I thought it was a modern building. I still think it looks quite modern. I don't know, it was built in 1680. A little over 340 years ago. Oh, so much for modern. The boat to the right is another nice example of houseboat prices. Sold last summer for 1.6 million euros.
Wow.
In the rest of the country you buy a castle for that. Over here you buy a boat. When I saw the boat for the first time it was all black. Everything on that boat was black. The wood, the extra furniture was all black. There were no plants on board, just plain black. And when the doors of the wheelhouse opened, there was a black table inside. Black. But that's absolute rubbish. This building leaning way worse than this one. This one shows you quite well. If you've been walking through the city, you must have seen more of these leaning buildings, right? Any idea why? Amsterdam, that beautiful city, is built on wooden poles. That's what we did when we started building in brick over here. After many fires in the late early 1500s, we started building in brick. And then we had to find a way to cope with the weight of brick buildings. They drove wooden poles in the ground, 20 meters deep, and built the city on top. And that worked. Actually, it worked brilliantly. Up to water level about 40 centimeters. Well, the wooden poles came out of fresh water and they started rotting. When the poles started rotting, the building started sinking. But these poles didn't rot out in the same pace, of course. These poles didn't rot out in the same pace, so the buildings didn't sink straight. They sank a bit wonky. That's what we see today. It's a leftover from the city wall. When we started building in brick in the early 1500s, we also built.
Wow.
And it is beautiful over here, right? This is the main reason, these canals are the main reason why I like this little boat so much. The big boat is forbidden to come here, but it's also completely impossible. That is really beautiful over here. And it's 36 and today it might be the oldest warehouse in town, still in original state. And original, of course, is semi-original. Trust me, today they do have running water, electricity, the proper sewage. They've always had sewer. Only problem was that it came out of the buildings straight into the canals. Really don't want to know the smell in those days. The rest of the building is leaning. And if you see something like that, you know it's intentional. They built that building leaning. And it was mainly for easy storing. They stored on the hook on the top of the building, right? The facade leans forward a little bit. Storing all of a sudden becomes a lot easier. Oh, we were so smart in those days. At the end of the canal. The building is the Waag, the way. Today it's the restaurant. Back in the days it was the area where the goods of the sailors were weighed. It was calculated how much tax they had to pay. It was at the end of one of three main entrances from the sea into the city. There were three entrances. The first one was over there. Second one over there and the third one over there. First one was not a really popular one. It was the area where you came in when your ship was broke. We're moving on to the inner Amstel. Inner Amstel is in the city centre part of the Amsterdam. And that is a beautiful part. We just passed Doelen Hotel, one of many 5-star hotels in the city. On the other corner is another 5-star hotel, Hotel l'Europe. On the bottom is Brasserie Marie. If for whatever reason you want to spot famous Dutch people for lunch, that's the place to be. Been there. It was a cheap lunch, right? Not exactly, no. No, if you want a cheap lunch, well, we have different spots. The little tower, it's the Montalbaanstoren. That's over there. The coin tower, the Munttoren. It's on the coin square. They are palaces in Rome. Get your left building with a little balcony and the 2 white pillars. That's the mayor's place. That's where our mayor lives. Since 1926, every mayor of Amsterdam was living in that building. That's a good reason to become the mayor of Amsterdam. Maybe the only one, but 10 years. There's 10 normal Dutch homes. They took their time, not voluntarily. It was a prison. Benito, vanaf het Lido was meer wat boot.
Voor de wandeling. Maar dat geeft niet. Always a good surprise. Ja toch? Dat kan het wel hè. Ja, er zit een kopernaak ook nog hier. Stuur met stuur, dat is gewoon een bakpak. Nee, stuur met stuur.